Hello, online logician apprentices. This is your Professor McNellis. This is a second video, okay? So let's see how this goes. What I want to focus on mainly in this video is to go over worksheet one, okay? And possibly worksheet two if I can get there. I just don't want each of these videos to not be too long. But before I do that, I just want to give a couple of updates. One, it looks like Canvas on the phone is not as effective as Canvas on the computer. So if you want to watch one of these videos, I don't think you can do it from your phone. If you can, please email me and let me know. But it looks like the phone doesn't do the videos very well, so you can only access them online through the website. So that's a heads up. Also, I'm going to update the homework assignments with the inserts. I think I've given enough time for most of you, or in fact all of you, to get the inserts, to get the books and everything like that. So if there's still any problems, please let me know. Just give you a heads up on that. Also at this point, what I'm going to do is, since some of you just got your books, I'm going to reopen all homework for students that have been that may have been due like on the 31st. So I'm just going to go ahead and update it, and everything is going to start due on Monday. Okay, so everybody know you're going to have time to do your homework. Okay, because I want everybody to do well. Also, so anyway, so now let's go to the worksheets. Since you don't have you don't have me in class, I wanted to go over the worksheets with you so that you make sure that you're doing it right and you're thinking about it. Okay. So that said, as you can see, I have online. This is our workbook. I really like this workbook. I mean, it's really cute, but it seems to be very effective. And it seems to be doing really well, especially in my classroom. So I'm hoping it'll work well with you. I know kind of uploading it is kind of a pain, but I really think in many, many ways this is really good for you, and it's a good way for us to stay on the same page. And when you have questions, we all can turn to the workbook and a certain page number and problem so that we're all literally on the same page. Okay? So that said, let's go ahead and work through this. And let's go through this. Here's a note from the author. Whoops. Okay. Um, table of contents. What I want to do now is just look at worksheet one real quick. Worksheet one is really a basic worksheet. It's kind of an introduction for you, okay? So when I look here, I'm looking at question number one, what is logic about? And I mean, I didn't go into great length in class, but literally, what is logic? Logic really is about, right, thinking about your own thinking. And when you look at logic like that, what we discover is there's actually patterns to the way we think and when the way we relate to ideas. And so what logic is about is really identifying those patterns in the way that we think. And I'll talk about that more about that later. But it's really the only class that you will ever take in your entire life where you're thinking about your thinking. And that's really cool. That said, you should have taken it in high school. Okay, you should have started in elementary school. But our culture and our traditions don't teach stuff until you get to college. I'm working on that. I sit on a couple of boards in the school districts. But nevertheless, it is what it is. You're here. I'm glad, and you'll be glad. So look at question number two. If you look at question number two, here we go. I'm just gonna kind of write on this just for fun because it's fun. Yeah, that's good. Okay. So now we have, why do you think this class is important? That's a question that's just for you to answer, just based on the readings. Whoops, I'm kind of doing that. Hang on. That's for you to answer, and it varies depending on how you understand the class. Define an argument, right? An argument is a series of statements whereby at least one statement supports or proves another statement. And that's key, okay? You're going to have to memorize that. It's the best thing because everything we do in class is going to involve that. And so the next question, okay, right here. Okay, whoops, this one here is talking about define the different parts of an argument. And what are the different parts? You have a statement. So all arguments are made up of statements and not statements. So that means there's a whole section in your book about declarative versus exclamatory, right? Versus expository and things like that. So please read them in that section. It's really important. But in short, statements are nothing other than sentences that can be proven, okay, true or false on a relative basis. And what that means is, when you create an argument, don't use questions, because a question, I mean, it leaves too much open to interpretation. Okay. It also, you don't, a question can't be true or false, right? It just is a question. You don't go, hey, how are you? You're like, hey, that question is false, right? That doesn't make sense. So when we deal with arguments, we deal with statements like the grass is green. That statement, I can prove to you whether that grass is green. And of course, I can prove it to you relatively depending on what evidence I want to draw from. Likewise, if I say God is love, I can also, relatively based on the evidence that I bring up, can either prove to you God is love or not. Now, again, it's relative, okay? A statement like God is love and the grass is green, those are two different types of statements that are going to demand different types of evidence. Obviously, the grass is green can ultimately and objectively be proven true or false, but what God is love, less so. So we're going to get into those different types of statements and declare both are declarative though. And that's what's important here. We'll look at what makes them different later on in the course. So, and every argument has a set of premises, and all premises, right? All we mean by that is these are, oh, my writing is horrible with this thing, supporting statements, okay? I'm going to have to work on this. Woo! I'm going to get a different pen here. Statements, okay? Supporting statements, that's ridiculous, but it's pretty fun. These are things that you use to prove. And remember, the best type of premises are ones that are not debatable. But sometimes you're going to have to use some. But the idea really here is that you want to use these as let's see if I can do this right. Okay, stop. Let's see if I can do this. New facts, right? You want these statements to be factual, and that doesn't look. There we go. There's a C. Facts. Conclusions. Conclusions are also statements, and those are the statements that are being proven by the premises. So those are the supported statements. Okay. Number 5, let's see what we got for number 5. We've got how many premises must an argument have in order to be an argument. And here what basically it's getting at is you need at least one piece of evidence. So you need at least one premise in order for something to be an argument. And if that's the case, that also means there has to be a conclusion, which means every argument, okay, and I think the next question is, let's see, right, how many conclusions does an argument have? Then with that, what we get at there is can only be one conclusion. We're going to mix this up a bit. By conclusion here, we're really going to, and I'm going to jump ahead to like chapter 2, but here we're really talking about main conclusions. Because what we're going to find is arguments can have sub-conclusions. But so when we say one conclusion, that means all arguments are ultimately pointing towards one conclusion. And yeah, so then, okay, so moving on. Come up with at least 2 reasons why you think understanding the experience. That's for you. Number 8. Now, traditional indicator words here, traditional premise indicator words, these are important. These are going to be your best friends, okay? Because, right? Since, as, for, what else is there? Dun, 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 we have provided that. I mean, all of these words are definitely words that will suggest these are the supporting statements, okay? Whenever you see them, those are your premises, okay? Traditional conclusion indicator words, those are going to be your traditional, right? Consequently, or you might have something that says, I'm sorry about my handwriting here. That's supposed to say consequently. But you can also have, right, like therefore. And whenever you see these words, they mean, hey, you're coming into the conclusion. You also have words like hence. Okay? These you want to know like the back. Oh, that's really horrible. Let's try that again. Hey, come on. Hey, look at that. That looks pretty cool. Let's try this over here. Oh, okay, here we go. Therefore, so if you have words like hence, there we go. That's still, I'm working on my writing here. Um, so here we go, hence. Again, when you see those words, that's going to be your conclusion. And that's going to get mixed up in chapter 2. We'll look at some of that, okay? Um, let's move to the next one. And then here, suggestive, and notice that it's suggestive premise, and suggestive conclusions. Now, what do we mean by that? This is nowhere to, you can't really find this anywhere else. This is kind of like unique to this particular workbook. And in some ways it's nice, in some ways it's confusing. What we really mean is like if I use the word must, right? Usually that means like if I have to say, hey, you must clean your room. Usually when we see the you must wear clothes to school, right? You must wear shoes when you walk on the sidewalk. I mean, whenever you see must, that word itself, it suggests that it needs more information to prove it. But must, you can also use must as a, so most of the time when you hear must in a sentence or statement, a declarative statement, it's going to suggest that that statement is the conclusion. Okay, so there may not be traditional indicator words, but words like must, right? You should, right? Hey, you should break up with your boyfriend. Those kinds of words suggest, right, that you need more information to prove it true. But that said, the reason why they're suggestive, and let me give you some other words, right? Must, should, ought, okay? Gosh, I'm trying to think of others that we could use. And I'll come up with more as we go through the homework. But those are the big ones. Like they suggest that a conclusion is being made. And the reason why they're suggestive, because it's not always the case, right? With the word therefore, you know that's going to be a conclusion, okay? But with ought, it's not necessarily the case. Like what if I said we ought not to kill each other, okay? Therefore, okay, we should not go to war. Now there I've got two statements with should, but one of them is being used as evidence and one of them is being used, right, as a conclusion. So in that case, right, it's you the reason why but one of them is more indicative of something that is less in need of proof than another. We shouldn't go to war. That's more debatable, right? But if I say to you, hey, we shouldn't kill each other, I mean, first of all, I'd say if you don't believe that, well, please don't take me for my class in my class because I don't trust you, right? So typically, like we could use that phrase, and we don't need more information. I don't go, all right, prove to me why we shouldn't kill each other. That's a generally accepted fact, and there's only and so if we want to violate that fact, we usually have a good reason to do so. But again, that's what we mean by suggestive. It's not necessarily the case. Suggestive premise indicator words. Okay, these are interesting because if I use the word and in a as in a passage, basically what that means it's setting up and it's adding information to the argument. And when you add information, you're usually adding it to what? The premises. Because how many conclusions are there? There's one. So knowing that and is suggesting that the next statement that comes is going to be a premise. And you have words also like also suggests a premise, okay? Furthermore, right? Or moreover. I mean, all of those are like, firstly or secondly. Things like those words all are adding information or at least lining up information that suggests that what's being presented is evidence and not necessarily the conclusion. So that's the idea of suggestive. I hope that's helpful for you. And I think that's the last statement. This is the last. That's the last one. This is worksheet 2. Okay, so I've talked for 15 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and stop here. If you have any questions, please submit questions right underneath this particular video. And I'm going to try to do these for each of the worksheets that you have to turn in. So this way you can check your worksheets with these videos. I hope you're doing well. For those of you who've stopped by my office, awesome. For those of you who've emailed me to introduce yourself, awesome. If you haven't, I'm always welcome and look forward to meeting you at some point. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and stop and upload this to our Canvas. Okay, and then I'll start doing worksheet 2 and worksheet 3. Okay, okay.